misinterpretations and misdirection that go along with all of those things. That is the religious aspect of religion, and this relates to the structures that are existing within Freemasonry and the Masonic tradition. Again, I don't want to get bogged down in that for what I'm attempting to get the listener to comprehend. I'm attempting to teach what is generally known as light Freemasonry, okay? True Freemasonry, all right? Just like I was explaining the esoteric traditions of Kabbalah and Tarot, that's what this is about. This isn't telling anybody to go and join a Masonic lodge, all right? I wouldn't advocate that, as a matter of fact, because I believe that it has largely become some sort of just a network of people to come together and, try to figure out, ways of scratching the other person's back so that when their back needs scratching, someone else will do it. And that, again, ties into all kinds of political motivations and all kinds of motivations in business, money, and really all of those things do not belong in the lodge system at all. It's supposed to be about learning natural law and morality, ultimately. And it has become something quite other than that. And as a matter of fact, when you get enough psychopathic people together in a lodge system, through the secrecy that is inherent to the lodge system itself, you can get completely dark Masonic lodges that are really doing things that, they're not chartered to do, they have no business doing, and are completely against other people's natural rights. And I don't doubt that that goes on. It certainly does in certain places. However, again, what I am attempting to explain, and I don't know how I can make this any clearer, for people that don't get what I'm saying, just turn off the show now and believe what you want, okay? Because I can't possibly, hammer this any more than I already have without, belaboring this to an unbearable point. I am not attempting to teach the compartmentalized / hierarchical structure of Freemasonry as it is in the lodge system. I am teaching the underlying esoteric meanings of the allegories and symbols. That is what I hope to convey, and that's all I can say. I can't say anything more than that to try to get you to understand what I'm trying to do by explaining this. So if you think it's all bad and evil, turn the show off and believe what you want. Okay? Period. So with that having been said, let's go into our continued exploration of some of the symbols, meanings, and allegories that are contained within the Freemasonic tradition. Now, this just generally conveys what needs to be done to try to counter one-dimensional thinking. And this has been talked about by many people, many researchers in different areas of what's going on. People generally think along one-dimensional terms and think that the first thing they ever hear or see about something is all there is to it. And that's not the case. There are two sides to the coin when it comes to understanding what the Freemasonic tradition is about and how it has been used. Okay? So we can, believe all of the hype that's out there about what it actually is versus understanding that what it is different than how it has been used. Okay? And that's what I'm trying to get people to understand, is what it originally was intended to be versus what it has become. All right? So what we're looking at here is what it is originally intended to be, and attempting to get people to understand the unadulterated teachings within this tradition. And I will not say any more about this because, again, the point has been belabored. If you don't understand that, I can't help you. So that having been said, here we go. We looked at the structure. We started looking at one of its symbols, and this is the most well-known symbol of the tradition. The compass is in the square with the G in the middle of it. I put a couple of stylized renderings of this up on the site. This is image number 2 and 3 if you were at the image section for tonight's show. And you see the square at the bottom on its point, and that's important in that configuration, what that represents, versus in the inverted form, which we'll get to. Okay? The square, as we talked about last week, represents lower consciousness. It represents base consciousness instinct. It would be the equivalent of the R complex of the brain, okay, in physiological terms, okay, because ultimately what Freemasonry is all ultimately about is how to build a better brain. It's how to build a better person through building a better brain and heart within the person, okay? That's ultimately what the craft is constructing. That's why it's called a craft. Okay, it's making something. And the concept or the principle of making is contained deeply within this tradition, as we're going to see tonight. So the lower aspects of the self need to be ruled by the higher aspects of the self. The lower aspects are physical, worldly identification. Okay, they need to be overcome. The base passions of the person need to be ruled over if the person is going to obtain self-mastery. That's what this tradition is ultimately about. Self-mastery. Becoming a being that exists in unity consciousness. As you think, so you feel, so you act. And therefore, the number 3 comes up over and over again in this tradition, because it is about these 3 aspects of consciousness: thought, emotion, and action. Okay? So, if we are going to square our actions, meaning put them into harmony with natural law, okay? Basically, rule our actions, that they're not going to be controlled by other people, okay? We're going to make them upright. We're going to make them in harmony with morality, which we talked about in the natural law presentation. If you want to listen to that, go back to podcast number 36. I think people would get a lot from that. I eventually want to record that as a video and get it out there. Which, by the way, as a quick aside, I got the video for the Wizard of Oz presentation that I did at one of the Free Your Mind fundraisers at Germ Books up on the website as well. That's in the news section. So check that out as well. But the square representing the base instincts needs to be made into something that is more perfected. Okay? It needs to be made into harmony with natural law and the divine aspects of the self, which are embodied in the shape of the circle. The square being the imperfect shape, okay? And the circle being the divine shape. Okay, so we need to circle the square. In other words, the shape that draws the circle is the compasses, the tool, I should say. All right? This is about geometers' tools. All right? And we talked about the G in the middle representing geometry last week. That's kind of where we left off. What does this G mean? That's where we're going to pick up tonight. All right? So the compasses represent flexibility, not rigidness, right? They represent ruling the passions, okay, the base instincts. They represent compassion, coming together in feeling, okay? Understanding we are one, understanding that we all have the same fundamental needs, desires, hopes, dreams, etc., and we're all in this situation together. And that compassion needs to rule over the base instincts of the being. Okay? So it draws the circle or the divine shape, and you see it depicted here over the square. Not just above it, vertically, but actually on it. If you look at it as laying these things down, like let's say on a table or something, that the compasses are on top of the square. That's important. They're not under it. The square's not on top of the compasses. It's the other way around. The compasses lay atop the square. Okay? Because they are saying, it's symbolically saying this aspect is superior to and needs to basically be put first over the base instincts. Otherwise, we're going to have chaos, which is what we have now. Okay? The way to get from the compasses, from the square, I should say, to the compasses is through the G, through the center, through the middle way, the middle path, as we talked about in the Kabbalistic tradition, and we're going to see repeated in the Masonic tradition, there's this concept of the middle path. In Kabbalah, we saw it as the middle pillar. Okay, the pillar of, or the path, the middle path of mildness, which is the middle of the Kabbalistic tree of life, the Sephirotic tree, which we broke down. In Freemasonry, it's the middle pillar, also called Jacob's Ladder, or the pillar of wisdom. Okay, so we'll look at that when we break down the first degree tracing board, hopefully later tonight. So these two stylized renderings that I put here with the G in the middle, you can then see repeated with the compasses and the square on image number 4, having the sun in the middle of it, okay, because this G represents the light as well. Okay, light is a big symbol in Freemasonry, as is the sun. Okay, this sun, again, is higher consciousness. It is the Christ consciousness. It is the solar mind, as it has been called. Okay, it is higher level awareness of self, understanding of the true self, awakening, enlightenment, all of these things. Okay, concepts we've explored at length on this show. All right, now the G itself, I gave a general list last week, and let's take them one at a time again. The G in the middle of the compasses and square represents this third aspect of consciousness, which is ultimately our emotions. Okay, if we're going to square our actions into harmony with higher consciousness, which is represented by the compasses, this is higher thought, the higher mind. Okay, the compasses are compassion, right? Unity consciousness, the left and right brain coming together at the fulcrum point, the place of balance. Okay? It's flexibility and it's harmony. All right? Drawing the circle around the square, the base instincts. All right? The G is the way to that state of higher consciousness, and it's the emotional aspects of self. The inner aspects, see, it's inside. The G is inside. It's not on the outside of the shape. It's inside of it. Looking within. Self-exploration. Understanding the true nature of oneself. Knowing oneself. Gnosis. The G is the first letter of the word gnosis in Greek. In Greek it's gamma, right? Gamma, nu, omega, sigma, iota, sigma is how you spell gnosis in Greek. In English, that transliterates to Gnosis, gnosis, knowledge, obtained from direct experience, from going within. Okay? It's another thing this G represents. It represents geometry, the allegory of geometric tools, geometers' tools, being used to create. This is what we create with, our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions. The three aspects of consciousness. Okay? It also stands for the great architect of the universe, G-A-O-T-U, which you'll see it written as sometimes. Okay? This is God or the goddess. Okay? The creator. Doesn't make a difference what you view it as. All right? The creative aspects of everything that underlies everything that we see, that underlies the unity of all. All right? Gnosis, knowledge, goodness, everything that we want to create that ultimately serves us is done through getting in touch with that emotional center. All right? The G, right? I've said this can also represent Gaia, the spirit of the earth plane. All right? The spirit of this school that we are all ultimately in. Okay? And this place for experience and creation. It can also represent green. Green is the balanced color. In the middle, again, the G is in the middle. In the middle of the visible spectrum, we find the frequency green. It's the color that represents balance, nature, getting into harmony with nature. Green is found abundantly in nature, the most abundant color in nature. It's the love energy color. It's the color ascribed to the heart chakra. Okay? the